Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're heading right back to the foundations, really digging into how we started understanding the human mind through Sigmund Freud's early work.
Yeah, and our map for this journey is a key chapter from Freud and Beyond, a history of modern psychoanalytic thought. It really lays out those crucial first steps.
Imagine, the medical world back then. Doctors were seeing these really strange physical symptoms, things that just didn't add up neurologically.
Exactly. And the big question was brewing. What if the root cause wasn't in the body, but somewhere hidden deep inside the mind?
So our mission today is to follow Freud's incredible quest to figure that out. We'll unpack the core ideas, the theories, the concepts that really form the bedrock of classical psychoanalysis. Think of it like mental archaeology.
That's a great way to put it. Freud is the archaeologist, uncovering these hidden layers of the psyche.
Yeah.
We'll trace his journey from neurology, studying the physical brain, into the really complex world of unconscious thoughts.
And we'll define those key psychoanalytic terms as we go, using examples straight from the text to make it all clear.
Right, so you can follow along easily.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Freud starts out, brilliant young doctor in neurophysiology. Brain science was booming, right?
Yeah.
Isolating neurons, tracing pathways.
Absolutely. A very exciting time for brain science. But then came this pivotal shift sparked by neurologists in France, Jean-Martin Charcot and Hippolyte Bernheim. What did they demonstrate that caught Freud's attention?
Well, it was the power of unconscious ideas, wasn't it? Through things like hypnosis.
Precisely. And a prime example was something called glove anesthesia. A patient would lose feeling only in their hand, stopping sharp at the wrist.
Which makes zero sense neurologically. The nerves run up the arm.
Exactly. Nerve damage wouldn't just stop like that, but psychologically it made perfect sense. The person's idea of their hand, their mental representation, was what was affected. It pointed straight to a problem in their thoughts, not their nerves. Thoughts they weren't even aware of.
Wow. And Charcot took it further.
He did. With his hypnotic demonstrations. He could induce hysterical symptoms like blindness or paralysis just through suggestion.
Just by suggesting it.
Yeah. And then, even more strikingly, he could remove those same symptoms, again, just through suggestion. It was powerful proof that ideas, not nerves, were the source, and that ideas completely outside of awareness could control behavior.
So this really shifts the focus, and this leads us to Freud's first major collaborator, Josef Breuer.
Breuer, a respected Viennese physician, and their work together on the famous case of Bertha Pappenheim, or Anna O.
Anna O had some really dramatic symptoms, didn't she? Paralysis, speech problems, all while nursing her dying father.
A whole range of them. Breuer initially tried Charcot's hypnotic suggestions, but the relief was only temporary.
But then Anna O herself kind of stumbled onto something.
She did. She started talking while in these trance-like states about her symptoms, tracing them back. Breuer just listened, really.
And they found that talking about the original stressful event and letting out the emotion tied to it, what she called chimney sweeping, made the symptom vanish.
Exactly. It sounds almost too simple, but it was profound.
Can you give an example?
Sure. The text mentions her sudden inability to drink liquids. Got quite serious. Under hypnosis, she recalled seeing her companion's dog, which she disliked, drinking from her glass.
Ooh.
She'd suppressed her anger, wanting to be polite. But when she remembered it under hypnosis and expressed that disgust and anger, boom, the symptom disappeared. She asked for water right away.
Incredible. So suppressed memories and feelings were causing physical problems.
That was the core idea, which led to their 1893 essay, A Preliminary Communication, stating, hysterics suffer mainly from reminiscences. These trapped, unlived memories and feelings were split off, festering and emerging as symptoms.
But did they agree on why this splitting off happened?
Well, that's where their paths started to diverge, even early on. Breuer thought it was due to hypnoid states, like the upsetting event happened when the person was exhausted or distracted, so it didn't get integrated properly.
Kind of like a glitch in processing?
Sort of, but Freud proposed something different. His conflict hypothesis. He argued these memories were actively pushed out of awareness because their content was disturbing, unacceptable, in conflict with the person's conscious self.
So not just a processing error, but an active defense mechanism.
Exactly, and that focus on internal conflict, on secrets kept from oneself, became central to Freud's entire life work, really. It's a key difference from Breuer.
Okay, so Freud's moving towards this idea of conflict and active defense. But he started getting dissatisfied with hypnosis, even though it helped uncover these things. Why move away from it?
Because the relief was often temporary. The memories that came up in a trance could just slip away again afterwards. This made him realize there must be this active force, a resistance, what he termed defense, keeping this stuff buried.
Oh.
Hypnosis kind of bypassed this defense artificially. But for real, lasting change, Freud felt the patient needed to experience and work through that resistance, not just be told the answer while hypnotized. They needed to feel it.
That makes sense. So this struggle led him to map out the mind differently.
Yes, it led to his first major model, the topographic model. He divided the mind into 3 regions, you could say.
Which were?
The unconscious, basically the storage place for all those unacceptable, repressed ideas and feelings. Then the preconscious, stuff that's not currently in your awareness but could be easily accessed, like remembering what you had for breakfast.
Okay.
And finally, the conscious, simply what you are aware of right now.
So if hypnosis wasn't the tool anymore, how did he try to access that unconscious region?
This is where he developed his signature technique, free association. It completely replaced hypnosis and became the absolute backbone of psychoanalysis.
The classic couch scenario.
That's the one. Patient lying comfortably, analyst usually out of sight. And the instruction is simple, but profound. Say whatever comes into your mind. No filtering, no censoring, like watching scenery from a train window, just reporting it.
The goal being to bypass those usual defenses.
Exactly. Let the unconscious thoughts slip through. But Freud quickly noticed something.
What was that?
That it's incredibly difficult to actually do. People constantly block, hesitate, change the subject.
Because the defenses are still working.
Precisely. Which led him to identify 2 more crucial concepts, transference and resistance.
Okay, define those for us.
Transference is when the patient unconsciously redirects feelings and attitudes from important past relationships, usually with parents, onto the analyst. So they might feel intense love, hate, dependency towards the analyst that really belongs to their past.
Wow, okay. And resistance.
Resistance is basically any action or attitude that hinders the process of free association and uncovering the unconscious. It could be silence, changing the subject, forgetting appointments, arguing with the analyst. Freud saw it as the same force that originally pushed the difficult material out of awareness.
So these sound like problems, like obstacles in the therapy.
Initially, maybe. But then Freud had this huge insight. Transference and resistance aren't obstacles. They are, as he put it, the very heart of the treatment.
How so?
Because they bring the patient's core conflicts and defenses right into the room, into the relationship with the analyst. Transference shows the old patterns playing out live. Resistance shows exactly how the patient keeps things hidden. It's direct access.
So you work with them, not against them.
Precisely. The text gives the example of Gloria, that young lawyer, remember, paralyzed by indecision, especially about marriage.
Right. How did transference and resistance show up for her?
Well, she found free association terrifying. She was convinced horrible, dangerous thoughts and fantasies would pour out if she let go. She was scared of the analyst's interpretations, seeing them as potentially damaging.
And this connected to her past.
Deeply. It mirrored childhood fears, where her own feelings, her imagination, her bodily functions felt dangerous and out of control, needing constant vigilance. Her resistance was her core conflict, playing out right there in the therapy. It was the window.
Fascinating. So the therapy itself becomes a laboratory. Okay, Freud's refining his technique, focusing on conflict, defense, transference. But he also turned his attention somewhere else we all experience. Dreams.
Yes, dreams became incredibly important. He saw them not as random nighttime noise, but as just another form of association, packed with hidden thoughts and links to earlier experiences. He even used his own dreams for a period of intense self-analysis.
And he came up with a central theory about what dreams are, didn't he?
He did. His big idea was that dreams are disguised fulfillments of conflictual wishes. Basically, while we sleep, our defenses relax a bit. This allows forbidden or unacceptable wishes, often stemming from childhood, to surface. But to avoid waking us up or causing too much anxiety, these wishes have to appear in disguise.
Okay, so how does that disguise work?
Through a process Freud called dream work. It transforms the real underlying meaning, the latent dream thoughts, the unacceptable wishes, into the bizarre, often nonsensical story we remember, which is the manifest content.
And the dream work uses specific tricks.
Yes, mechanisms like condensation, where multiple ideas or figures are merged into one dream image, and displacement, where the emotional focus is shifted from something important onto something seemingly trivial. Symbolism plays a role too. And finally, secondary elaboration kind of smooths it all over, making it seem like a coherent story, but really just further obscuring the true meaning. It's designed to throw us off the track.
So interpreting a dream is like cracking a code, working backward.
Exactly. You take each piece of the manifest dream, the images, the feelings, and associate freely to them. The idea is to follow those associations back to the core latent dream thoughts, reversing the dream work.
And Freud saw this structure, this compromise between a hidden wish and the defense against it everywhere.
Yes, this compromise formation became his model for understanding neurotic symptoms too, and even everyday mistakes like slips of the tongue, the famous Freudian slips. They all reveal this underlying conflict.
Let's go back to Gloria. You mentioned her dream from age 5. Waiting for her father, he comes back with something disgusting on his shoe, leaving her feeling uneasy. How did Freud unpack that?
Well, her associations went to her brother being born around that time. She felt jealous, like her father had given her mother a baby instead of her. She loved baby dolls.
Okay.
So the dream condenses her intense attachment to her father, his awaited return, the shoe perhaps symbolizing his penis with her feelings about her new brother. The rage and disappointment are displaced onto the disgusting element on the shoe, representing the baby brother as, well, a piece of shit who messed up her special relationship with her father.
Wow, so it's a disguised package of childhood love, rivalry, rage, and fear.
Precisely, allowed to surface in a disguised way during sleep.
This focus on childhood is becoming really central. Freud noticed that symptoms often returned unless traced back to these early experiences, which seemed to involve sexuality.
Yes, invariably he found connections to what he termed precocious involvement with sexuality. For Gloria, this wasn't necessarily overt abuse, but memories of her father's intense, maybe inappropriate interest in her developing body, finding his near nakedness both exciting and terrifying. She saw his penis as huge and demonic, her own body as small and vulnerable.
So this connected to her fear of the analyst's interpretations.
Yeah, she feared they, like his penis, could somehow invade and destroy her. This led Freud initially to a very controversial idea.
The theory of infantile seduction.
Exactly. He first proposed that actual sexual encounters in childhood, often initiated by adults, were the root cause of neurosis. These traumatic memories would lie dormant and then get reactivated at puberty, causing symptoms.
But he started to doubt this.
He did. His own self-analysis after his father's death was key. He uncovered his own childhood sexual feelings, longings for his mother, rivalry with his father. Plus, the sheer number of patients reporting seduction seems statistically improbable, especially within respectable Viennese families.
So reality didn't quite match the theory.
Right. And here's Freud's genius again. He didn't just discard the data, he reinterpreted it. In 1897, he made a huge shift.
What was it?
He concluded that many of these memories of seduction weren't memories of actual events, but were actually memories of the child's own wishes, fantasies, and longings.
Ah, so the impulses were coming from within the child.
Yes. This led to his truly revolutionary theory of infantile sexuality. He shattered the Victorian notion of childhood innocence. Kids, he argued, have their own complex inner lives, full of impulses, fantasies, and conflicts stemming from their own minds.
And sexuality wasn't just about adult intercourse.
Not at all. It was a much broader concept, a kind of diffuse sensuality focused on different parts of the body, what he called erogenous zones, like the mouth, the anus, the genitals.
The driving force behind this being the instinctual drive.
Right. The basic idea is the mind needs to discharge internal stimuli or tension. And the sexual instincts are primary drivers of this. Take oral libido, the pleasure derived from the mouth, like sucking.
Okay.
The source is the mouth. The aim is sucking. The object, like the breast, is found through experience. These early patterns of finding satisfaction set the stage for later life.
And he mapped this development through stages.
Yes, the famous psychosexual stages.
Yeah.
Oral, then anal, phallic, a latency period, and finally genital. Each stage is dominated by a particular erogenous zone and the associated conflicts and pleasures.
So childhood sexuality isn't just one thing, it's a progression.
Think of it as the text suggests, like a river with many, many tributaries. These component instincts of infantile sensuality flow throughout life. They might show up disguised as neurotic symptoms, or more directly in what were then called perversions, or be channeled into creativity sublimation, or simply repressed.
Can you give an example maybe with the anal stage?
Sure. Anal eroticism. Think about toilet training. The child has intense wishes related to defecation, pleasure in the act, interest in the product, maybe wanting to mess. But society demands control. Cleanliness.
A classic conflict.
Definitely. And Freud saw echoes of this in adults. Someone who seems driven to spread disorder. Always messy, perhaps a disguised gratification of those early soiling impulses.
Okay.
Versus someone compulsively neat, obsessed with order and tidiness, maybe shoring up defenses against those impulses, terrified of the inner mess.
Mm.
It shows how these early bodily conflicts can shape character.
Right. So these stages, these tributaries, they all flow towards something major.
They converge around age 5 or 6 into what Freud called the centerpiece of his theory of development, the Oedipus complex.
What's the big one?
The big one, where all those earlier drives consolidate into a more genital focus. The core idea is the child develops intense desires for the opposite sex parent and sees the same-sex parent as a rival.
Why is this considered so central?
Because Freud believed this triangular drama, love, jealousy, rivalry, fear, identification, all within the family forms the fundamental template for all our later intimate relationships, our struggles with authority, our sense of self. He also later talked about the negative Oedipus complex, desiring the same-sex parent.
And the earlier stages affect how this plays out.
Absolutely. Strong, unresolved issues from the oral stage might infuse Oedipal feelings with intense dependency. Fixations from the anal stage might bring in themes of power, control, and submission.
And how does this complex get resolved, typically for boys, according to Freud?
Through fear, basically. Castration anxiety, the fantasized fear that the rival father will punish the boy's desires by castrating him. This fear leads the boy to renounce his Oedipal ambitions.
And that renunciation leads to
The formation of the superego. It's like the internalization of parental rules and values, becoming our conscience, our ego ideal. It's the heir of the Oedipus complex, keeping those infantile desires in check.
So our moral compass is born out of this childhood drama.
In Freud's view, yes. As one scholar, J. Greenberg, put it, the Oedipus complex is central to both normal development and neurosis. Understanding it makes sense of mental health and illness.
That really puts it at the heart of everything. So, boiling it down, Freud's saying the mind is mostly unconscious, and our personality is shaped by this constant battle between impulses and defenses.
Exactly, woven from that conflict.
Like Gloria again, with her compulsive faucet turning as a teen that perfectly captures it, right? The conflict between wanting to be turned on and desperately trying to turn herself off.
A perfect metaphor for that internal struggle between natural urges and the need for control. It even affected her ability to grow plants later, this pervasive battle.
But Freud's view of the nature of that conflict shifted again later on. It wasn't just about sex anymore.
Right. Around 1920, he made another major revision. Until then, the sexual drive was seen as the main source of conflict. But then he introduced the dual instinct theory, aggression. He proposed an equally fundamental aggressive drive, which he linked, controversially, to a death instinct. This gave aggression equal footing with sexuality as a core motivator.
That sounds like it darkens the picture significantly.
It really does. Repression isn't just about society being prim and proper. It's about protecting ourselves and others from our own inherent savage destructiveness. Society's rules aren't just conventions, they're necessary barriers against chaos.
So, a shift from a more optimistic view of human nature.
Definitely. From a sort of Rousseauian idea of innate goodness corrupted by society, to a more Hobbesian view that life without strong controls would be nasty, brutish, and short. He explored this in Civilization and Its Discontents, arguing that civilization is essential but inevitably causes discontent because we have to renounce so many core desires.
A necessary dissatisfaction. Okay, one more big theoretical shift. By the 1920s, that first map of the mind, conscious, preconscious, unconscious, wasn't quite cutting it anymore.
It had limitations. For one, Freud realized defenses themselves are often unconscious. You don't know you're defending. And he also recognized things like unconscious guilt, people punishing themselves without knowing why. The topography didn't fully explain that.
So he needed a new model.
Yes, which led to the structural model in 1923. Instead of regions, he proposed 3 interacting agencies or functions.
The famous id, ego, and superego.
That's them. The ID, pure, raw, instinctual energy. The cauldron full of seething excitations, as he put it, wants immediate gratification. Pleasure principle.
Okay.
The superego. The internalized moral standards, ideals, prohibitions. Your conscience and your ego ideal, largely derived from parents and society, can be harsh and critical.
And the ego.
The ego is the mediator. It tries to balance the id's demands with the superego's restrictions and the constraints of external reality. It operates on the reality principle, trying to find realistic ways to satisfy impulses safely. It handles defense mechanisms.
So it's the executive branch trying to manage everything.
Pretty much, and often unconsciously. Freud used this Darwinian idea we're incompletely evolved, torn between our animal urges and our civilized aspirations, superego, managed by the ego. Socialization involves a lot of self-deception to hide these raw motives.
And when this balancing act fails,
The ego and superego repress the unacceptable id impulses. But they don't just disappear. They push for expression, the return of the repressed. And that's what creates neurotic symptoms. The mind is largely unknown to itself, battling these disavowed forces.
it's a dynamic, conflict-ridden picture. Freud himself felt his biggest contribution was unlocking dreams, right? Seeing them as the key to our inner world.
He did. He believed all the stories we tell ourselves about who we are built from fragments of this deeper psychic life, which dreams give us a unique window into.
And the whole field of psychoanalysis grew from these initial discoveries, even if some of his followers went in different directions.
Absolutely. People like Adler, Jung, Rank, Ferenczi, they broke with Freud over various points, emphasizing things like aggression, the self, will, or interpersonal dynamics. But many of their ideas eventually circled back into psychoanalytic thinking, sometimes uncredited.
It shows the power of his initial framework.
Definitely. The text uses that great Big Bang metaphor. Freud's discoveries were like this explosion of ideas that created the whole universe of psychoanalysis. The slight variations early on led to the incredible diversity of analytic schools we see today.
Okay, let's try and summarize the key takeaways from this foundational period. We started with that shift from physical symptoms to the power of unconscious ideas and conflict.
Right. Then the move from hypnosis to free association, highlighting transference and resistance as central to therapy.
Then the huge insights into dreams disguised wish fulfillment, the whole idea of latent versus manifest content and dream work.
And that revolutionary theory of infantile sexuality, the psychosexual stages, replacing the seduction theory. Plus, the Oedipus complex is the core developmental drama.
Don't forget the later addition of the aggressive drive alongside sexuality.
Crucial. And finally, the move from the topographic model to the structural model, id, ego, superego, offering a more complex map of that internal conflict.
It's an incredible intellectual journey.
It really is. And perhaps the thought to leave you with is this. Understanding Freud's initial breakthroughs isn't just history. It reveals something quite profound, maybe unsettling, about ourselves now.
Which is?
How much of our current feelings, our struggles, our choices, even our character, might be continuously shaped by these deep, often invisible currents flowing from our earliest experiences. It's like this hidden well of the past that never really stops influencing the present.
That's definitely something to chew on. A powerful reminder of the depth beneath the surface. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Freud's foundations. We hope it's given you a clearer map of these essential ideas. Keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time.